Hello and welcome. On this video I'm gonna give a very basic simple explanation of what a DLL file is. The reason I'm doing this is because on my website, on one of my blogs developing a video game, I had a question from a user about DLL files and how DLL files are used, and he wanted me to give a demonstration. So that's what this video is about. Okay. Alright. What is a DLL file? DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. Think of a DLL file as a a library where for you to do something you need to get information from that library so you can accomplish what you need. On this case is I quick draw an example here. Let's say here's your program, an executable file, which is the equivalent of your running program, and this is the end user, the person who's going to use that program. The program can look at DLL files for data, code and resources, so it can deliver to the user the appropriate functions and features of the program. For example, you can have a program running that has only 5 out of 10 features. That to get the other 5 features, you need to have a DLL file that will allow that program to do that. In video games, this is my opinion. I don't like the idea of DLL files. I prefer the idea of script files, because DLL files, they need to be compiled so they can run, and script files, if the program looks at script files, you can just change the script files and they don't need to be compiled, so it speeds up the the idea of having the program running without too much problem. I'm going to use this image to demonstrate exactly what it's showing on this image. It's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna use the name program file and DLL file to give this demonstration. I'm gonna keep coming back to this picture to explain a little more. So I'm gonna move this out of the way. I'm gonna close this, and we're gonna use Microsoft Visual Studio 2010 because it's basically the native Microsoft compiler, which is, DLL files, it's native from the Windows operating system. So oh yeah, another thing, DLL is only for the Windows. The equivalent of DLL for the Linux, for example, is the .os, and that's another reason why I don't like the idea behind the DLL, because if you're developing video games for multiple platforms, you're gonna be stuck with just Windows if you work with DLL. Alright, we first gonna create the DLL file, the Dynamic Link Library file. So on Visual Studio, we're gonna click File, New, Project. Another thing, I am not gonna go into a lot of details about the programming language and the explanation how to, what each one of these features are, because these is, it's a very long course to learn all this. So I'm just giving an explanation how to basically do what I'm showing on this picture. Alright. Okay, so we're gonna choose Win32 console application because it's just gonna print something on the screen. and we're gonna call it DLL File. Gonna click OK. Application settings. We're gonna choose a DLL file, and we want an empty project. Click Finish. And now we have the beginning of our project. Alright, first thing we're gonna do, right click on header file, add an item. We want a header file, and we're gonna call it DLL File. Click Add. Again, I am not going to go into high details about explaining what the programming language is doing. I'm pretty sure most of the people watching this video, they're not interested in that. Whoops. So class, I'm gonna create a class with my name. And I'm gonna make this class with only public member. Let me call this function, whoops, show my message. Alright, now that we have the header file, we're gonna add the source file. On the source file, add new item. We want the CPP, C++ file. We're gonna call it DLL. We're gonna keep the same name. Include input, output, stream using namespace std, and we're gonna include the DLL header file so we can run the function inside the file. So add the DLL file. Whoops. We're gonna call inside the Eduardo class, we're gonna call the show message function. And we're gonna call the function, and this is what we want the function to do: to print to the screen. This is my message inside a DLL file. Okay, remember, we are working on a DLL file. Once the executable file gets this DLL file, this is what it's going to print to the console screen. This message is inside the DLL file. Now, we're going to build. Make sure we don't have any errors. We are all good. Nothing failed. Everything worked. Everything work except my English. Okay, this message is inside the DLL file. Alright. Now, we got this build. We know there's no errors. Now, how did we call that again? We got the DLL file. Now we're gonna make the program file, the executable file. Alright. So we are going to start a new project. It's gonna be a Win32 application. We're gonna call it program file. Remember, I'm just using the names to match, you know, this image here, so we know what's gonna happen. All right. Okay, so we got program file, application settings. We want a console application. We're not going to be creating a DLL, and we want an empty project. Okay. Now, before I write anything here, I want to change something before it gives me an error. I want to go back to the DLL file, and the namespace is blank. I declared the namespace, but I left the identifier off. It works fine if I build. Whoops. If I rebuild it, it gives me no errors. Usually, you know, the empty namespace is good because it's not going to have any naming conflict. But I'm gonna put a namespace here to avoid compile errors. So what I want to do is open the directory where the files are. We have the two programs right here. We are on the DLL file right now. On the debug, I want to remove this because it's the file we build. Also the library too. Now, when we have this here, and let me just do this. We just put nm space on a DLL file and nm space on a DLL file CPP. Now when we rebuild it, it's going to create those files here again. So we got the library in the DLL. Now I'm good here. I want to close this. Okay. I want to copy the DLL file library and the DLL itself from the DLL file directory into the program file. Now, remember, on the DLL file, we have the header file here, so we're gonna reuse this same file here. So we want to copy the header file also into the program file directory. Whoops. Yeah, we didn't compile anything, so yep. Okay. Alright. Now left click, right click, add existing item. We want the header file H. So it's there. Now source file. We want to create the main file. Now left click on program file up here, right click, references, and we want to link those DLL files. Linker, input, right here, drop down, and we want to add that DLL file .dll. Click OK, click apply, click OK. Now we can write the main source code. All right. We're gonna include the DLL file we have. Include input output stream. Username space std. We're gonna use the namespace nm space. We write main. Now we use recall show my message from inside the class, from the public class member Eduardo. Now we're gonna put a system pause so the information I want to show doesn't flash on the screen. And now we build and we get an error. Okay, let me see that. Valid or corrupt file. Oh, here it is. It's actually yeah, okay, file.dll. Alright, we go back to program file, right click, references, configuration, linker, input. Right here it's supposed to be the library file, not the DLL file. Okay, so instead of DLL, it's the library file. So okay, apply. Now we had it failing. If we rebuild, it works fine now. Alright, now let me demonstrate how the DLL file will work. Okay, so I will bring this back and I will open the documents where the two files are, the two projects. So we have the program file project and the DLL file. Remember, we first created the DLL file, the dynamic link library file. The file is right here. We also created a library for it. Now, under the program file, under the debug folder, here, this is this program right here. When I double click on it, it's gonna give me an error message because I don't have the DLL file inside the same directory. So when I double click, nothing happens to the program, and it gives me this error. The program can't start because DLL file.dll is missing from your computer. Try reinstalling the program to fix the problem. It's actually can't run because it depends on a DLL. The source code for this program, it's looking for a DLL file, and we created the DLL file and we place it here. So we're gonna copy the DLL inside the debug folder. We're gonna paste the DLL file there. Now we have the program, which is this, and the DLL file right here. If I double click on the program file, now it reads what we wrote inside the DLL file. This message is inside the DLL file. Press any key to continue. So basically that's it. On this case, the program depends on this DLL. But like I said on the beginning, a DLL can be used for many things. And thank you for watching the video.